It's such a pleasure to be joining you right here on the India Development Debate. Let me take this across to a very special panel. But first up, a quick intro to the show then. It's a colossal mess at the CBI, the country's top investigative agency, casting clouds over the Modi government's decision to sideline its top boss Alok Verma. The Supreme Court today did assign former Judge AK Patnaik to monitor the probe against him by the Central Vigilance Commission. The CVC has also been told to finalize its findings within 2 weeks. Not just that, the top court has restrained acting CBI Director Nageshwara Rao from taking any policy decision, even as it has been said that he will only take decisions to keep running the CBI. Today's developments have further weakened the government's position, which is under attack for misusing the country's premier institutions. At the same time, the opposition party is launching a major offensive against the government and the Prime Minister, accusing them of removing Verma for the fear of a probe into the Rafale deal. Rahul Gandhi led a rally to the CBI headquarters and quoted arrest, even as he said that the Prime Minister cannot hide any more from his misdoings. The CBI in coma and the political fallout of the crisis at India's most premier investigative agency is a big topic of discussion and debate right here on the India Development Debate tonight. Let me take this across to a special panel that's joining us. Mr. K. Raghavan, former CBI officer, Mr. Raghav Avasthi, lawyer and RSS member, and of course, Sagarika Ghosh, a very important voice in this narrative and consulting editor TOI. So thanks each one of you for being with us. And Sagarika, if I may begin to ask you, both sides seem to be claiming victory. One side believes it is, the government, the courts have not reinstated Mr. Alok Verma, and so it's advantage what the government did. The other side believes that there is plenty to pick holes into. One of them is Nageshwara Rao obviously can't be doing a full-fledged CBI director role. The other is a time-bound probe to be supervised by Justice Patnaik. How are you going to read into this? Whatever has happened, and I will talk about specifics in just a bit, but on a larger point, whatever has happened, is this going to restore the institutional credibility of the CBI?
Supriya, I think what the Supreme Court has done today is deliver a careful judgment, an appropriate judgment, a nuanced judgment and a balanced judgment. I don't think the Apex Court has given the opposition what it was hoping for. It was hoping for a full reinstatement of CBI Director Alok Verma. The court has not done that. The court has not gone into the merits of the case, such as dismissal at 2 a.m. and the midnight meeting or the midnight coup. The court preferred not to go into the merits of the case. The court instead, in its wisdom, Supriya, has taken the entire jurisdiction of the CBI into itself. It is now a Supreme Court monitored organization, and it has insulated the government. It has insulated the CBI completely from the government. It has reduced the government nominee, the interim director, Mr. Nageshwara Rao, to a lame duck. Right. He has no powers. He basically is an administrative head. But it has recognized the supervisory role of the Central Vigilance Commission over the CBI, but the time-bound inquiry which the CVC will conduct on Mr. Alok Verma will be monitored by a retired Supreme Court judge. Right. So the caged parrot, which was caged earlier by the government, is now in a sense caged by the Supreme Court. The court has now taken over jurisdiction of the CBI. So in fact, neither side has got what it wanted. In fact, the government has got a bit of a breather. But it's important to note here, Supriya, that while the court has erected this legal architecture and has given a balanced judgment and has created a legal framework for how we have to go forward to resolve the CBI crisis, right, the fact is a legal issue is now becoming a political battle. It's now going to become political mudda number one. So in that sense, the battle over the CBI has spilled over from the court to the street. But it has to be said that the next hearing, which is going to happen on the 12th of November, when the CBI will actually decide whether to reinstate Alok Verma or not, is the first day of polling in Chhattisgarh. It's the first day of election in Chhattisgarh. So how this will impact on the polls, of course, remains to be seen. Is this going
to have an electoral campaign impact at all or not? Let me just come to that in a bit. But Mr. K. Raghavan, and you're a former CBI officer, what do you think this does to what's happening within the CBI right now? I mean, just for the benefit of our viewers, it's not as if the court has said Mr. Alok Verma should not have been sent on leave and so they've reinstated him. That has not happened. The court perhaps believes these are extraordinary circumstances, and like the finance minister has pointed out, Caesar's wife needs to be suspicious. suspicion, and which is exactly what the courts have gone ahead and done. But I want to understand from you the particular point about this being monitored by a retired Supreme Court judge. Does that raise suspicion that the court itself doesn't have ample faith in the fairness of a probe otherwise?
Yeah, you are correct. What I want to say is, the Supreme Court judgment, the only saving factor is that they have appointed a retired Supreme Court judge to supervise the inquiry, number one, against Director CBI, Mr. Alok Verma ji. But now, that means, in my view, they are doubting about, prima facie they have a doubt whether the action of Alok Verma director is correct or not. Who made, and the allegation, the second point which I want to make is, the second allegation, the second point is the allegation against Alok Verma was not made by the government or by any public or by any other person except the special director whom against whom he has registered an FIR. Now, the criminal investigation has been set in motion. Now, in that case, now an inquiry against director who ordered for registration of the case, it will definitely have impact on the FIR investigation also. This is one point, the second point. Thirdly, it is the two people who have demolished the reputation of CBI and CBC also, I would rather say. And they have brought into reputation to the law. You cannot even imagine whether it can be restored and by anybody or anything like that, because we have been in that, I have been in that from 68 onwards.
Right.
I have seen how officers built up this organization and got the confidence of the public, media and the judiciary. Now, it has gone, everybody
okay. Just hold that thought, sir. I want to get to Raghav Avasthi at that point in time. I'm sorry, I'm running really low on time on this show, sir. Please keep your answers brief. I will come back to you. Raghav Avasthi, I have a direct question to ask of you. Nageshwara Rao has been appointed interim CBI director, but the court very categorically says, forget about a policy decision, he cannot take any major decisions. He is perhaps going to take decisions just to keep the CBI running, which means administrative decisions. Even the decision to transfer officials and IOs that had been taken on the 23rd of October is to now be produced in a seal envelope before the Supreme Court. Is this a setback to what happened during that midnight coup?
Yes, I would gladly like to answer this question. First of all, I would like to point out that the terminology that Sagarika ma'am employed, which is, she referred to the Supreme Court order as a judgment, that is incorrect. There is a difference between an order and a judgment and a decree. But moving aside from that, this is just a garden variety status quo order. Had it been the case that the Supreme Court had reinstated Mr. Verma, then that would have amounted to granting of final relief at the interim stage. That would have been something to discuss about. This is just a garden variety order wherein status quo has been maintained. And when such orders are passed, the courts generally have three considerations in mind. One is whether there is a prima facie case on the part of the petitioner. The other is whether there would be irreparable damage caused to either party. And the third is third consideration is that the courts keep in mind is as to where the balance of convenience lies. So now in this case, the courts have clearly and categorically opined that the prima facie case in favor of the incumbent is not strong enough for him to be reinstated. There is only one set of circumstances under which the final relief can be granted at the interim stage, and that is when the prima facie case is of a really high order, which is what the Congress had been shouting from the rooftops. The Congress had been saying that this is because this is because the incumbent was investigating into the Rafale deal. This is why he was removed. The court has not entertained them. Court has at the most said that okay, you might have something of a case, but it is not as if your prima facie case is of a really high order. And the court has, in its great wisdom, appointed a retired Supreme Court judge to oversee the investigation that is to be completed by the CVC into the charges against the incumbent. So, I don't understand what the Allah Ballu is about.
Raghav,
Having said that, I would like to reiterate that as far as my meager knowledge of the law is concerned, if this prima facie case had been really good, then final relief would have been granted to him, because there is only 2 months left for his tenure to end.
No, I don't know why you're being so sanguine about it. No, I think you're being very dismissive of the other side, because I think the other side's argument hold as much ground as yours does. If there was no so hullabaloo, the finance minister wouldn't have given sound bites on this. So just give me a minute and I'll go across to Sagarika. And Sagarika, I will bring in Mr. Jaitley's comments, and he says that the Supreme Court has further strengthened the fairness criteria by fixing a timeline. He of course goes on to talk about a supervisory authority that has been given to a retired Supreme Court judge. He also says the current CBI controversy is an extremely positive development. Government has no interest for or against any individual. It's interested in maintaining professionalism, image and constitutional integrity of CBI. The question is, can the CBI resurrect itself from here on? And did the government act too late? Why the midnight coup? This mudslinging and this political drama was in the making for months now.
Why the midnight coup, Supriya? What was so urgent that a motorcade had to accompany the interim director to the CBI office, that offices had to be sealed, that spooks were found, IB sleuths allegedly were found outside the home of Mr. Alok Verma? What is the reason for this kind of a panic reaction from the government? Now, clearly there is something much more to it than meets the eye. Now, is it, as the opposition is alleging, that the CBI director was about to file a PE on the Rafale case? Is it because of the 7 cases that were on his table? You know, those are what the opposition is bringing out. But we have to, I think, accept the fact that the Supreme Court has very clearly snubbed the government, because it has, although it has recognized that the Central Vigilance Commission has supervisory role over the CBI, it has not given the government any power to conduct that time-bound inquiry. It is going to be done under a Supreme Court judge. So it is a snub to the government, however much the BJP RSS may try to deny that it's not.
Quickly to Mr. Raghu Thaman, and then I'm coming to you, Raghav Avasthi. Just give me a minute. And as a former CBI officer, sir, how will you read the fact? What happens to ongoing probes and investigations? There are some very high-profile, political people cases there, and there are obviously cases that are being contested outside of this country, whether it's a Vijay Mallya, Lalit, those kind of cases as well. What happens to those cases? Because the Supreme Court has now turned around and said that there will be no major policy decision that the present CBI director can take. A large chunk of the teams that were operating and assessing these cases have been transferred. How do things move from here on for the next 2 weeks?
Now, the point is that the ongoing investigation, whatever happens in India as well as outside, already Vijay Mallya has alleged that the jail and the prison and everything is nasty and all these things, and there will not be any justice against him and all these things. In that circumstances, even the outside India, the judicial system will have a doubt whether I can send him back or not to India. This is the impact. This is going to be in my view. And similarly, other cases also will have. Thirdly, the morale of the CBI investigating officers have gone. Now, which way they want to collect evidence, and what evidence whatever the evidence they collect, they will come to know that it is going to be demolished, or it was to be fabricated, or it was to be enclosed, or it will be seeing its own dying declaration. And I am not able to compromise with that action of this type of inquiry against CBI director. And as you told, the midnight operation should have attracted the attention of the Supreme Court of India, and they should have addressed that at least on for sake, not give any order as our gentleman was telling, but they should have addressed this. What they should have asked the government, what is urgency? And why the CVC is writing a letter just one day before to the government of India, this director is not cooperating when I called for the document. On that basis only he has been divested. It is, but the motive is that behind that action is that he has registered a case against number 2 Astana. This is the real fact. But whatever you may say, they have done damage to the organization, and the investigating morale has gone down. It was morale has gone down.
Okay, 1 second, sir. I'm sorry, I'm coming in there because I think this is getting a little repetitive. Raghav Avasthi, to you then, and one of the questions from this will emanate from what was happening outside of the courtrooms. You did see, you know, sections of the Congress, Congress party and sections of the opposition like the left and the TMC, I think, who had joined this probe. One must ask, is this perhaps in hindsight an error committed by the government, because this is giving the opposition a chance and an opportunity to stick Rafale onto the government, to stick Rafale onto, you know, there is no proof, but yet, you know, there is this narrative that Mr. Verma was perhaps going to lodge a plea, was perhaps going to act on the Rafale complaint.
So Priya, there have been 2 allegations that have been made against the government as far as the Rafale deal is concerned. One is that the price had been improperly negotiated. So the speculation is that some sort of commission must have been paid, which cannot be the case, because in this case it is a government-to-government deal. The other allegation was that pressure was put on Dassault to make sure that Anil Ambani's Reliance defense was included as an offset partner. Yeah, please let me complete. So these allegations are being hurled by these, you know, quisling members of the Lutyens establishment who want India's security to be endangered. Having said that, my point again is very simple. If the prima facie case of the incumbent director was so strong, then he should have been reinstated. The fact that he has not been reinstated today and an inquiry has been ordered and the inquiry is not to be conducted by Justice Patnaik, as Sagarika ji seemed to be suggesting. It is to be conducted by the CVC under the overall supervision of a retired judge of the Supreme Court, just to ensure transparency. And so, there is absolutely no need for this unwarranted speculation.
One second.
As far as the opposition is concerned, the less said the better. I mean, they are irrelevant in most of the states of the country. I'm talking about the Congress party. They are ceding space to regional players all over the place.
Avasthi,
so I don't think there should be any cause for alarm whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Fair
so
point.
it's like the Mughal dynasty.
Avasthi, let me come in there.
Mughal dynasty, the rate of which extended from Alam to Palam. That's what the Congress has been reduced to.
Sir, yahi problem hai. Sir, yahi problem hai. Let me ask Sagarika a question. And Sagarika, as a political analyst, I'm asking you questions on both sides of the political spectrum. Does the Congress think this is their moment that they will seize and they will be able to stick it to the government, and this is going to be a moment that will be electorally relevant? So that's the big point. Can CBI and Rafale translate into election winning or losing issues? That's the big question. And the second question is the... Okay, let's get that question of the way, because I have a very direct question to ask.
That's the big question. That's the big question, Supriya. Is this going to be an electoral issue? Can this have any resonance in the 3 states that are going to polls? Are the voters in Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh going to be bothered about the CBI director and Rafale deal and, you know, what's going on with the CVC? That really remains the question. Before I address that, I just want to very quickly, just point to what Mr. Raghuthaman was saying about the CBI. You know, has the time come now to look at a real autonomous CBI? Has the time come to take the CBI away from the government, to make it accountable to a bipartisan body or to a governing body where the CJI, the leader of opposition, the government will be represented through the Prime Minister? Has the time come for a separate cadre of officers for the CBI, not just people on deputation? Has the time come for the CBI director to be banned from taking any kind of government post after he retires? These are important issues, I think, about the CBI that have to be discussed, and we need to ask whether the CBI really structurally needs to be reformed after this particular crisis. Coming to the politics, Supriya, I just want to say, you know, For a long time, the opposition and Rahul Gandhi have tried to chip away at what they have seen as the Teflon image of Mr. Narendra Modi. They have used Rafale, they've used Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi, all of that. None of that seems to have worked because Mr. Narendra Modi's popularity seems to continue. Now with the CBI drama, they probably feel that they have a mudda number one. Rahul Gandhi has been accused of being Lattian's elite, not a strong politician, weak politician, whatever. So he's today out on the street, he's getting arrested, he's got the optics. Now for the opposition, the optics itself is important. The headline management is important. For a long time, the government was managing headlines. Now the opposition is trying to manage the headlines. But I have to say, Supriya, that on the issue of misuse of CBI and corruption,
yes,
that is a terrain where the Congress has no moral high ground. So there to think that they will score over Narendra Modi, I think is a tall order. And I think whether this issue will resonate, whether CBI director will resonate in Chhattisgarh or whether Madhya Pradesh will be
I don't think the
excited by
Congress
this.
has any moral authority to say the CBI is being misused because it has happened under successive governments. We are seeing, this is why I say this is a deja vu all over again that we are seeing. But Raghav Avasthi, I think the question that the other side of the political spectrum should answer is that is the BJP, is the government, are sympathizers being too dismissive of Rahul Gandhi, and to underestimate anybody in politics, an opponent especially, is a fatal flaw.
Exactly, I completely agree with you, and there is no question of being dismissive of Rahul Gandhi. Having said that, the point is just this: his own party is dismissive of him. You have a P. Chidambaram who does not have confidence in confidence in Rahul Gandhi as a prime ministerial candidate. His own party feels that they should cede space to regional players, because the fact is that in the better part of the country, Rahul Gandhi is not regarded as a winning ticket. That's the whole point. It's not about whether the opposition disrespects him or underestimates him. It's his own party which feels that he's a bloody liability. That's it.
Okay. You know, my problem here is that you should not quote people out of context, because the same Padayappan Chidambaram has gone on record denying and being quoted out of context there. So don't make that mistake. You can make that mistake on a lot of other channels that do that. We do a lot of due diligence. You are right in saying that the opposition is divided and Rahul Gandhi is not leader number one of the united opposition, because there is no such unity there. But don't quote people out of context is all that I will advise and care you to do. But as a former CBI, as a former CBI officer, Mr. Raghuthaman, are you hopeful that on the 12th of November we will see a decisive report that will help the Supreme Court to make up its mind? All said and done, this is an interim verdict that has come in.
Yeah, this is a very good chance for the Supreme Court of India to go back and review its order of 1998. Whether the tenure given to the CBI director, 2 years, how it was misused is by already 2 directors are in soup. Now he is the 3rd director. Now what is going to be the safeguard for the 2 years tenure, and how, even if you give 2 years tenure, and how the expect after the appointment if he starts doing something, and what is the way out? That is why in CBC Act and SP Act, DSP Act, there is no question of termination. They have not discussed or introduced any section termination. Only thing what they have told is transferred. He cannot be transferred without the approval of the appointment committee. That is that section has been included. But what if he does something wrong, or if he goes against the rule of law? What is the alternative? That they have to now look into it, in my point of view, as a legal experts, and the judiciary should come on.
I'm sorry, I've had to repeatedly cut you short on the show here, but I've completely run out of time on this edition of the India Development Debate. I am sorry I'm cutting you short there, but Raghav Avasthi, Mr. Raghuthaman, and of course Sagarika Ghosh, thank you very much for being with us on this edition of the India Development Debate. The debate on this is not over. It will continue. The CBI versus CBI, the dirty underbelly of our own investigative agency will continue. The courts have taken a decisive call for a former Supreme Court judge to now supervise this probe. Those who believe it is a small step, they perhaps need to realize that the CVC itself is an authority that could have well gone ahead and done this investigation. But nonetheless, Justice AK Patnaik will supervise all of that and supersede those proceedings. Thank you very much for being with us in this edition of the India Development Debate. We take a breather. News updates and views continue right here on ET Now.